So if the Minnesota Vikings actually want to tank, let's full on tank. If you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. So be the best tanker and like sound the gala horn for a change and go full in tanking, right? Just if you're going to do it right. But, being the Vikings, that they'll try to tank and then they'll just get your hopes up and then screw it up at the end. Like, they'll accidentally beat the Lions week 17, end up with the number 2 overall pick. They'll miss out on Trevor Lawrence. Trey Lance a little bit too high, draft at 2. They'll end up drafting a corner from like Saginaw Tech who Zimmer says like, that guy's really good. And they'll end up being a bust and just be like, great. But if the Vikings are fully in on tanking, why not push your chips all in? Trade Kirk Cousins? Question mark. So the Vikings, for some reason, extended Kirk Cousins this offseason, tagging 2 years onto his deal. Now, in actuality, it's kind of a 1-year extension. Basically, they converted the remaining $30 million of his initial 3-year, $84 million record-setting, precedent-setting deal into a signing bonus. And then the second year is only injury guaranteed only. So the Vikings do have an option next offseason for the 2022 season if it gets that far. Okay, so theoretically, the Vikings could do this. They could pull this off. So say the season starts out 0-4. They lose to the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry runs for 297. Week 4 at Houston. The Texans actually get off the schneid 0-4. And then, of course, Sunday Night Football at Seattle 0-5. Okay, So if you're going to tank at that point, go full in. Go all tanking. Play Sean Mannion. Play Jake Browning. Play the beloved Nate Stanley, who everyone seems to worship. Okay, except it's like they didn't watch Iowa games. Huh? Anyway, but who would trade for Kirk Cousins? Like, who in their right mind would trade for Kirk at this point? We know. The Super Bowl participant, San Francisco 49ers. So Jimmy G has a high ankle sprain, may not play this week. And, of course, those things can be tricky. But when has an NFL team ever overemphasized a player's injury so that they can secretly bench them but have cover from the public and not admit their mistake? I don't know. When does that ever happen, right? So the Niners hate Jimmy G anyway. Kyle Shanahan was the one in Washington who advocated for Kirky. So 2012 draft, Washington moved heaven and earth to get up to number 2 overall, draft RG3. And you forget that their second pick right after that was a 4th-round pick where they took Kirk Cousins. So you trade everything for the franchise quarterback of the future, and then you just draft his backup in the 4th round. Huh? So it was Kyle Shanahan who was heavily advocating for Kirk Cousins at that point. And also the system is similar to that of Gary Kubiak, similar verbiage, similar concepts. You can do all that stuff. So Kirk not only played for Kyle Shanahan before, he gets to step into a system that's very similar to Kubiak's, except less crappy. And now they've never been sold on Jimmy Garoppolo, who is now banged up. So Shanahan did not want to trade for Jimmy during the 2017 season. John Lynch did. Lynch made the trade because Shanahan, what he wanted to do is he wanted to wait until 2018 free agency and then sign Kirk Cousins. That was the offseason where Kirk signed the 3-year, $84 million deal with the Vikings as opposed to the 3-year, $90 million deal with the Jets, because Kirk knew. It's like, I may as well be bad with a place that has fall as opposed to just adding fuel to the fire of the dumbest rivalry in sports history. Hey, you can have Barr now. Yeah, you can have Anthony Barr now. Go ahead. Yeah. So, also, I will say, in fact, I think that the Niners win the Super Bowl last year with Kirk instead of Jimmy in that game. I really do, because Kirk hits Emmanuel Sanders on that post route 9 times out of 10. Jimmy G just doesn't have a prayer there. So, respect where it's due. Cousins does have one of the better deep balls in the league. And Lynch and Spielman, they've done business before. You look at the draft, because the Vikings initially had 22-25. They spent 22 on Jefferson, 25. The Niners came up and traded up from 31 in addition to an extra 4th and a 5th, and to take Brandon Ayuk, the great wide receiver from Arizona State, who's also banged up now. The Vikings at 31 took El Jefe, Jeff Gladney, and then the 4th and 5th rounders extra they got from the Niners that took DJ Wonnum and KJ Osborne respectively. Cap-wise, all right, so cap-wise, Vikings would have to eat $41 million in dead cap 2021, 2022. All right, so either all of it dead next year, or they can take $31 million dead in 2021 and $10 million dead in 2022. So either way, it's not terrible. Another Rob Brzezinski special. And also, here's where the Vikings have a little bit of leverage. So the Niners only have $9 million in cap space, but the Vikings can facilitate that trade by paying the bulk of Kirk's 2020 base salary in exchange for a little bit of extra juice. Like the juice in extra trade compensation. So the Niners can punt next year on Jimmy Garoppolo's contract with only $2.8 million dead on his 5-year, $137.5 million deal to Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, so let's talk turkey, trade compensation. So the Vikings are actually an okay negotiating spot because they don't have to dump Cousins. Like, they can just ride it out with Kirk. They can still draft a quarterback of the future. Kirk can be in the saddle for next year, and then they can move on before 2022. No muss, no fuss. Well, $10 million dead, but generally no muss. And generally no fuss, right? The Niners obviously want him, and he could save their season even without Bosa. The NFC West is going to be super competitive. Seahawks are 2-0, Cardinals are 2-0, looking damn good. Rams are 2-0 again. Sean McVay, the original 12-year-old boy, bringing that team back from the dead. So if they want to get back into the derby, Jimmy G ain't it, especially a banged-up Jimmy G. So why not just stop delaying the inevitable, bring Kirk Cousins in, get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? Now, I do not want Jimmy Garoppolo in trade. Let's get that out of the way first. So let's say at least a 1 starting there. And also for the cost of absorbing the bulk of Kirk's 2020 salary to keep the Niners cap compliant, we want an additional 2nd-round pick as well as a conditional 5th-round pick. That's right. Basically canceling out the Yannick Ngakoue trade. Actually, if you want to include Yannick as well to replace Bosa, that'll cost you another first. But then we'll say a 2022 2nd-rounder just because we feel like it. Just because you have the audacity to ask us for our starting quarterback, even though we were clearly tanking. So total trade compensation, 2021, 1st-round, 2nd-rounder, and a conditional 5th-rounder. That could be 2022. Who cares? And then also 2022 2nd-rounder. So 1, 2, 2, 5. And then the Vikings go full tank, start Mannion or Browning or Stanley, go 1-15, and head into the draft armed with a high pick, possibly the number 1 overall pick. And then you have an additional 1st-rounder. You have 2 2s. You have 2 3s after compensatory picks, pending what happens with Trey Wayne's torn pec. And then you have 3 4s from various trades. Then also you have an additional 2022 2nd-rounder. Woo! If you want to rebuild the team, that's the way you rebuild the team. All right. And again, if you're going to go full tank, don't be half pregnant on this thing. If you're going to play the game boy, you got to learn to play it right. You got to know when to tank them. Shanahan finally gets his guy. Everyone's happy. And then the Vikings just have Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance and go win the day. All right. So your thoughts. If the Vikings are going to tank, trade Kirk Cousins to the Niners. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support that work? Pull something to Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.